So we are now live. So hello, the world of LinkedIn. Now, you think Amy is just saying, so this is also something I think us women are brilliant at, is multitasking and just kind of somehow doing everything, and literally always running after our, I don't know, running after
Forced to, aren't we? I feel like even if we don't want to, we've kind of like been put into that position, put in that box, forced to do everything.
Why is that? And I am right. So today, this is going to make everyone laugh. I'm in my gym kit. Should I just stand up? I've been so busy. I had a hoodie on until about 2 seconds ago.
I love that.
It's not. How can I need to show you my. So I've got my sweaty leggings on. I mean, maybe this is a whole new vibe. But anyway, so we are here to talk about how we can create more equity and inclusion in the workplace, because that is what International Women's Day is all around this year. Maybe how to stop putting so much pressure on ourselves as women, because I definitely do that. But how, I guess, as employees, employers, and in the marketing world, we can start to have, I guess, a better approach to being more inclusive and enabling women and everyone to do their best work. So with me, so to those of you who haven't met me before, my name is Katie Street. I am a female founder. I have an agency growing agency. I think we're around 10-ish people today, growing quickly again, but struggling with the growth things that happen with a small growing business, but overcoming those struggles day by day. So we are quite a female focused business ourselves. I think 8 women, 2 gentlemen. Is that the right way to phrase it? I don't know. Anyway, that's what so that's me. I also have with me the fantastic Perla Bloom. Perla, would you like to introduce yourself and your role?
Yeah, of course. So I'm a global strategy manager at EA Games. So I do the marketing strategy for mainly Battlefield, which is an immersive war game. So not a very female centric game, which is a very interesting experience. I'm also part of the WUT team, which is the Women's Ultimate Team. It's a little play on like FIFA terminology, and it's essentially the women's organisation at EA Games, and we aim to, because it would just improve the quality of the experience for women at EA Games in any way we can on a global scale, really. To be here. Thank you very much.
Perla, thank you for coming. And I mean, I'm super interested to understand more about your world. I've actually interviewed previously on my podcast Anna Bravington, who was at the time head of marketing at Game. And of course, the gaming world is a very male dominated world. And I assume that's the same in terms of the employees, EA Games, but it sounds like there's ways.
No, we've got actually quite a few women on Battlefield, which is really, really good. And they definitely need to be in the room, both product and marketing side. I found that, like, from the conversations we've had, it's really improved things and what people will see. It's just having women in the room is very important.
Yeah, definitely. The outputs definitely change when we've got a female perspective, and we need all perspectives. That's what today is all about. And I can see that Tracy has arrived. Thank you, Tracy. So Tracy, just a bit like me, always running from thing to thing, was like, I've got a doctor's appointment and I've got this, but I'm going to make it happen because I really want to be there. So thank you, Tracy, also for joining us today. I was just joking with everyone a minute ago. It was not a joke, saying I'm actually in my gym kit. And I quickly put a blazer on to try and look posh because I still haven't actually washed from this morning.
Power of a blazer. It's brilliant.
Well, I feel a little bit the same. And I have to say, I was on my way from one place to another and I got caught up with a whole load of people with the terrible weather collecting their children from school. And I was like, this is ironic on where I'm going, that we're multitasking mums, businesswomen, doing everything all at once, trying to be everything to everybody. Yes. So sometimes we give ourselves a break, don't we? But I'm delighted to be here, Katie, as ever. You're always exceedingly encouraging of women, and you put a huge circle of incredible women around you. So I'm delighted to be joining you. Whoop, whoop.
And Tracy, of course, you've had an amazing journey yourself. So I'm going to kind of big you up. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. So I actually met Tracy on a ski trip last year, hosted by Beamer, which is like I don't even know what to call them. They're actually called the British Interactive Media Association, but actually they're all about, it's the governing body kind of thing for digital in the UK. And Tracy not only founded but sold for millions and millions her startup. Well, I guess wasn't a startup when you sold it, her tech business, and now has just founded her second business. So Tracy, tell us a bit about you and I guess, you know, being a female founder and your experiences in the tech space, because that another, you know, potentially is another fairly male dominated space that you've been working in.
It's a really male dominated space. And interestingly, I'm going to start by saying today I was at lunch with somebody who is a CIO of a major advertising brand globally. And I was talking about the fact that I'm coming on your podcast today, Katie. And I said, well, so tell me what your experience is. And what was phenomenally interesting is the compassion that men feel for our challenge as well. And he said, well, I remember that even in my lifetime, women couldn't have a bank account or weren't allowed to have a bank account that they couldn't open without being married or have it in conjunction with their husband. And that is, that's kind of phenomenal that you're having lunch with somebody who's at a very senior position and who can have that conversation. So my story really quickly, I was brought up on a farm in the South Island of New Zealand, which is my dulcet tones. I've got an undergraduate degree in geology and zoology. I don't really conform to the norms, and somehow I've run several companies, two of them which have been software companies. I think I always find that women are incredible to employ. I find that men can be brilliant at encouraging women if they're shown how. And I feel also, really grateful to work within the whole kind of advertising and media area, because I think we've also been quite lucky as women. I know there's still a lot of change to go, but we've been lucky in that kind of space as well. I think more and more women are coming through and kind of breaking what we all call the glass ceiling time and time again. But yeah, technology in itself is normally a very male-dominated area. Yeah, I think it's because I'm from a little place a long way from nowhere in New Zealand that, equality kind of just seems like something that there's not enough people, so they give it to you anyway if you push hard enough. So.
Yeah, definitely. You've got, I mean, there is something, I mean, I hate to say this, but you've got to stand up and be noticed and be a bit alpha. I definitely have been accused of being a bit alpha. Which shouldn't be an accusation. Why can't I be a bit alpha if I want to be?
We shouldn't be accused of being a bit alpha. It's kind of one of those challenges, isn't it? Kind of who makes us. It makes us who we are.
Yes, exactly that. And last but not least, fantastic Amy, who I met when I was on another panel discussion, but in person at Google, which was an absolute joy to be part of. Amy, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Pleasure to be here and great to see you again, Katie. Yes, I'm founder and CEO of a small startup as well. So Tracy, brilliant to hear your experience. Might be chatting to you afterwards. Essentially, we are a female empowerment platform, although I'm going to say something contentious. I don't love the word female empowerment, but we are trying to bridge the gap and really focus on making educational resources and opportunities accessible and affordable for everybody. So, we think that there's a massive gap, and particularly, that we're very well served at the top, and that's what we're talking about today. But I don't think to the masses we are well served, and I passionately believe that everyone has the right to upskill, to get out of bad relationships, financial abuse. Everyone has the right, every human has the right to financial independence. And we really want to be able to help facilitate that. And I spent 20 years in media, worked for some very male-dominated companies. I've pretty much seen it all. Had my own experiences as well, where every pillar, Katie knows this, every pillar of life came crashing down at the same time. You name it, it happened. And I was sort of at a position where what I needed didn't exist. And I never wanted any woman to ever go through that and not have those resources at their fingertips, but also their community and their women. And we really want to teach women to be better to each other and to really genuinely help each other, because I still think there is a big glass ceiling there where women are not great to each other.
Amy, I actually concur with you on that. I think that's one of our challenges as well. But aren't we lucky that actually today is being recognised? Something else I think is fantastic is that you're championing women being good at finance, because we are told from being little girls that we're not good at that stuff. You know,
we're not taught it, and it you know, it's crazy that we're not taught in schools.
Better point is we're not taught it. Amazing.
Yeah, and you know, the only reason boys are taught it generally, I'm being very general here, is that it's passed down from generation to generation. It tends to be a male thing to pass that down to the other male in the family, whereas, you know, women aren't really taught that. I was taught that because my dad was a self-made entrepreneur, and you know, and I hate the phrase, but I was a bit like a boy growing up. I was always in a field or getting dirty, or I was a bit of a dichotomy. So it's like long blonde hair, and then was always like dirty or ripped tight somewhere. My mum would drive, you know, I'd drive my mum mad. But it's something that 100% needs to be taught in school. Why are we not taught how to pay bills, how to get a house, how all these basic things that we all need to live? It still is wild and blows my mind.
Do you know what we should be doing on International Women's Day is seeing how we can get that message out. How can we help women change at every level from all ages? I mean,
well, I suppose the thing about, you know, equality versus equity, and you know, Kate probably knows this. I'm again, it's really contentious given what I do. So I could F my whole business by saying this, but I don't actually love International Women's Day.
No, I don't. I'm so with you on that.
I think it's a lot of pink washing. I think, you know, I saw the best one this morning, which was Sage, and I got an email from them saying strong coffee, strong women. I was like,
have you seen the chat GPT, if you put in International Women's Day, how it just looks like every other marketing material that you've seen, essentially just pink, you know, a lot
pink
of like
purple,
women, because I also don't like that we're still kind of chatting these female, feminine, kind of male linked attributes, you know, like, you know, alpha is male, empathy is female, when in reality, when we're looking at the future of leadership, like these female kind of linked attributes should really be, you know, implemented, and that is how people will feel, for lack of a better term, you know, empowered to succeed in the future.
And I think it's a really good point. I went to a talk recently, and she put it much better than I'm probably about to. But Katie, you saying the word alpha, essentially she was saying, as humans and men as well, we all have feminine and masculine traits, and that's what makes us unique, and that's what makes us who we are. And I think a lot men struggle as well with their feminine traits, and that's seen as not, you know, you're not allowed to have that feminine trait, or how dare you have that, you know, softer side, or it makes you weak, and all those things. So, you know, men do have this as well, and I think it's up to us, particularly in marketing and what we're putting out there, and certainly what we put out there on our platform, just to not use words like alpha, you know, feminine, you know, dominating, you know, I always get called aggressive, exactly, and how we change the narrative on that.
Yeah, Rebecca's made. So hi, Rebecca. It's really weird. I've not actually hosted on StreamYard like this before on LinkedIn. So this is new for me. So hi, Rebecca. Rebecca said actually something that ties into that I have actually spoken to my life coach counselor about. And she's saying I'm always called bossy by my family, and I hate it.
Same,
men,
Rebecca,
men are never called
bossy
as
well.
Yeah, exactly the same. Like, and my brother doesn't get called bossy. Why do I get called bossy? Like, there's so many terms out there like that just need to be squashed. And I think I've got a 14-year-old daughter who I did a lovely post about on Instagram today, and she
I saw it. It was really cute.
Yeah, usually she hates me posting on Instagram, but she did actually like send me a little message going, "Mum, I love you, and you'll always be my biggest inspiration." But she, you know, she inspires me, and exactly like you guys were just saying, she said to me, "Look, we don't like, why do I not learn about like mortgages and how that all works and interest?" But because I was like trying to explain to her, like, you know, if when we've moved house a few times, I obviously continually getting new mortgages, but I've actually stayed put for 5 years, which is quite amazing by my standards. But you know, she was like, why do I not understand, like, how does a mortgage work? How does that work with the, like, you know, not that she's going to be buying a house anytime soon, but she's 14. Like, why? I mean, I know the boys aren't necessarily taught that either, but why are we not teaching, you know, children at a younger age regardless, this needs to start, STEM. This is at the STEM. This has to start much earlier. I think there's a huge amount of change that needs to happen across schools to help with all of this.
Gatekeeping in language as well. Like, we frame this kind of stuff as really complicated or very systematic, and then we link it to like the male brain, or like, oh, they'll be good at that. So you already feel kind of this gatekeeping and this block away from it. So you're intimidated before you've even started trying to learn it. And I see the same with like, Web3 and things like that. It's kind of like pushing women away with that language. I think language is a very, very important thing. Like, to Amy's point, when we're talking about, bossiness, aggression, etc., there should also be training for people to give feedback properly and in a way that is not misogynistic. And I think
it's such a good point. And on, especially in Web3, we were the first platform to launch our own NFTs. And the only reason we did it is because everyone kept asking me what an NFT was. And I was like, all my teams thought it was hilarious, because like, I don't know. Why is everyone asking me? So I was like, tell you what, let's go make one, so we know what the process is, how hard it is, how easy it is, what are the pitfalls, all of that. And we hosted an event around it where we were just really honest, and anyone could ask any questions. And so many people and women came on because they were like, you're making it so relatable, because we were like, oh yeah, I did this wrong, and what the F is Discord, and I don't know all of this, and all of these things. And I think it's about the language and making it really relatable, as well as those things accessible, because if they're not relatable, then people are just not going to adopt those trends early on.
And that's, I guess, where I want to go next with it. So, gosh, half an hour webinar is really tough, by the way, with so many amazing people. I could.
When I saw your list, I was like, she's never going to get through that.
I'm just going off on a bit of a tangent, really, because I'm asking the things that I want to know. So, as a business leader, or as anyone in a business that has a team working for them, I'd love to know what you guys are doing within your businesses to make the workplace fairer, to give more equity to everyone. I mean, Amy, obviously you're probably doing a lot of this, but Tracy, you've run a couple of businesses. What kind of things have you implemented in the businesses to make the workplace more diverse and give that kind of that more equitable, but I can't speak properly today, equitable approach for everyone?
It's funny, because as a female founder, I just think it probably naturally happens. I mean, I can't think of, we do interview for female developers. Sadly, we don't have one. We've probably got an even split across the business with, men to women. And I find, that I'm probably going to be guilty of a few injustices here, but I find women are really good with dealing with clients and with challenges, and when things are not going well, they're also very responsive, multitasking. I mean, there's, we talk about the negatives of being called aggressive or masculine or whatever, but there's so many positives about kind of what women can contribute. So I run a software company, and we still have more men than women within the team, but you definitely have a need for mixed teams, and it makes a huge difference. I think women's attention to detail can be better. I mean, I'm being as generic as anybody's, but I think it takes a village to run a business. I say that often, and so it takes all sorts to kind of put that together, men and women. And I think you just need to find kind of people's strengths and play to them. And on the converse of that, find people's weaknesses and get other people to plug those gaps.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of chat going on here about women being the best bosses. Of course, I'm sure we'd all agree with that, being women here. And I must say, I feel similar, and I'm going to explain why. And then, Amy, I'm going to come on to you and Paula for kind of what's happening within your businesses. But when I do, and this is me being a bit more general, but I think it's because there's hundreds of years worth of men kind of leading the way in business, and us women not even being allowed to, for hundreds of years, many years ago, we weren't even allowed in the workplace a lot of the time. So I think men show up in business differently. They're more, I am being generalist and I don't mean to be, but they're happier to show off. They're happier to go to the boss and be like, look what I achieved, look how well I did this. They're very self, whereas I think traditionally us as women, we are a little bit more inclusive and kind of supportive, which is where I found bosses of mine that would take the credit often for work and the other team members had been doing, which were a mixture of, you know, male and female, but the male boss would take the credit. Whereas I think female bosses that I've had have been much more like, it was a team effort, you know, we're taking the credit together. So that's just an observation. And again, I think it's just, it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning, that men feel they have to be masculine almost, and like they have to show off and they have to show. It's a cultural thing that's we've got to really try and shake, because it means the playing field isn't always fair.
I have to say though, like, I can't agree that you know, women, like, I've had men that have also kind of shone the light on work that I've done. I've been unlucky enough to have micromanaging horrible men manage me, and I've had really great men manage me. I think a lot of it is about teaching men to be good allies. A lot of the time they really want to be, they just don't know how. So it's like speaking your experience into existence when things do happen to you that you feel wouldn't have happened to a male counterpart, and educating them, sometimes just downright asking them to support you. Hopefully by just shedding a light on it though, they will start, you know, calling those things out. And I've been so lucky, even early on in my career, to have men actually call things out that were misogynistic that I didn't even clock. Like, like, for example, somebody asking me what something means, I tell them, and then they go and ask a man next to me, and that guy said, "Why did you just ask me when Perla just told you? Why are you asking me?" I didn't even realize.
I think it's such a valid point, because I think, you know, we've got, and we're really careful of this on the platform, like to really not man bash as well. And I actually am the opposite. So like we've got an all female team apart from one guy, and quite often he'll point things out that we're like, oh yeah, you're so right. And sometimes
experience that we don't realize.
And it's really enlightening. You're like, oh God, this is why you, to Tracy's point, you really have to have this balance. And I sort of really want to get rid of the vernacular around male and female employees. And in our company, we say, and I know it's like, get the bucket, but we want to employ good humans, decent people, creative people, and have that balance of mind, but also the diversity of the team as well, and the backgrounds of those people, diversity in terms of age, you know, diversity in terms of thought, and all of those things like that, to me, is what makes a really good team.
Amen, Amy. With that, ladies, I need to jump off. I've been delighted to be part of it. Thank you.
Lovely to meet you, Tracy.
Tracy, thank you for joining. And Amy and Tracy, I will connect you guys.
Please do, yeah. I'd love to meet Tracy's brain.
Thank you, Tracy, for joining.
No problem.
Oh, Siri wants to get involved. Siri thinks he's called Tracy. So Maya's put a really great comment in here. She's saying we were just kind of touching on diversity, and Amy, I'm so with you on it. Isn't just, you know, it isn't just about someone's background, their race. It's about their career background. It's about their you know, sexuality, their sexual orientation, whether they're male or female. There's so many different things that you need to consider here, and the world is a very diverse place. It always has been. You know, I think it's because of the internet and the world, you know, being, you know, a bit more integrated than it probably ever has been before. You know, diversity and inclusion has to be on top of all of our agenda. But Maya's specifically saying that I think we need to acknowledge the intersectionality in these conversations to widen the narrative as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's really, really important, because, you know, in terms of creating that equity and opening doors in marketing and communications, you've got to think about the audience. You've got to think about, you know, who you're marketing to, and you can't, you know, gone are the days where, I mean, Mad Men, you know, where a group of men were deciding what the marketing outcomes should be.
Not gone are the days.
Although I did love Mad Men, I can't help it. I'm sorry.
I know, me too. Me too. But you know, it shouldn't be like that now. And in fact, we're hosting an event for a client for Big Commerce and Wonderman Thompson tomorrow, and it's all about why brands need to take a female first approach to their online retail, because 75% of the buying power, I think Nielsen predicts, will sit with females across most industries by 2028. And in fact, you know, if you think about online purchasing, it is a huge part of that is females. So it's almost like we've got to switch it the other way. It's specifically in the marketing and the tech industry. We need, we need more women leading this than we do the kind of Mad Men days of years ago. Perla, I did want to come to you because, of course, you are in, and we've only got 2 minutes. If we're maybe, are you guys okay if we go like a few minutes over?
Yeah,
I could do like 5 minutes over.
We'll just go a couple of minutes over. Perla, I'd love to know, obviously you're at a huge business, and like we said right at the beginning, one that, I guess potentially could very easily be dominated by men because you've got a large male audience. But within EA Games, how do you create that equity and, make sure it's diverse and inclusive and that you're considering things from all viewpoints?
So we try, like what I do with more, younger members of the team is I try and pass the mic as much as I can, especially when I feel like a point in a meeting is being, said again by a male counterpart. Even these small microaggressions can really, especially really early on in people's career, really bash them down. I know it really impacted me when I was a bit younger. And mentoring too, I try and discuss kind of processes and kind of step-by-step things that we can do when these things happen to us in a way that's not viewed as aggressive, because whether we like it or not, you can't just kind of react to things head on as much as we want to, because we're kind of feeding into a narrative if that's the case. So I do that, and I also make sure that I'm having conversations about pay reviews, etc., with my female, younger and same level as me, to ensure that we're all having the conversations that we should be. Because I think you said this earlier, I can't remember who said it, how women, they're socialized to be a little bit less confident. So it's kind of like, I'm doing this because I that's something that's the way that I ask for things. Are you doing this too? How do you usually tackle this? And it's like a kind of sharing of knowledge, of skills, etc., to ensure we don't kind of get swallowed up by like a really big corporation, because it can happen, and sometimes you're not aware of how other people are having certain conversations, and it's good to have visibility.
Yeah, totally. And I think, like you say, passing the mic piece is so important. I almost think hi Dom, by the way. Dom used to be our MD, and I almost kind of feel like we shouldn't have leadership meetings or board meetings without the whole team, not the whole, obviously with larger organizations that's really hard to do, but you need to have people at every level so everyone feels included and everyone's voice is important, because every business, regardless of what you're doing, everyone is part of that business, is building that business and helping it grow. So definitely having a voice at the table is good. Yes, I'm going to end with comments from you.
I just want to say what Dominic's just said is so important, and we're actually launching this as one of our new live classes for men. Although we're a female platform, it's all about how to talk to women, education around this, questions they want to ask. Come and ask us anything, especially in the workplace, especially around like female issues, female, health issues, all of those things, because menopause, perimenopause, all of these things come up in work. And, I do feel a lot of the poor guys are just like, oh, I don't know. Like there's so much stuff out there. So they don't know. And it's like grief as well. Yeah. We had that. So people don't say anything. So and then they're labeled with these, all these things that we're talking about. So I think that's just a really important point he's raised there.
Yeah, and I know I can't see everyone who's with us because that's not how StreamYard works.
I can't see any comments. I'm not going to lie.
Oh no, we've got loads of comments. So Paul, I'm going to pop one of Paul's comments up. I think everyone can see them on LinkedIn, but we can't see them apart from me. I'm sorry, guys. I was hoping that you could also see what I can see. But we've had some really interesting comments from guys. So Paul, I know that you're a huge champion of diversity and inclusion, and specifically female, and you're doing some great, making waves in the kind of tech, in the I can't even think of the right word here. Not marketing tech, wellness tech. I always have a puppy climbing up me who I promised I'd know. So
I was literally distracted by the dog a minute ago. I was like, oh my god, is a dog or a cat?
This is a Katie trait of this is just me. I make decisions so quickly. I went to a puppies, Pilates, and Prosecco party because that's.
Oh my god! And you bought a puppy?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. I already have one. I know. As if I don't have enough on my plate. I am mad. I know. Who's on here was telling me off. But thank you to all the guys for joining, because it is hugely important. When we sent this email out, I did have a few guys come back going, I'm not sure if this is for me. And I was like, this is totally.
And we really want their voices to be heard. This is how equality and equity change by men. It doesn't change by excluding them.
Agreed.
No. Yeah, totally. And so a huge thank you to Paul, to Oliver, who's new to our content team this week, to Dom, who was at Street. And I know, Paul, you're always a big fan of all of our events and webinars and podcasts. So big thank you to all the guys that have got involved. And thank you to you amazing females on the webinar as well. Webinar, like LinkedIn Live, and especially Perla, Amy and Tracy. Guys, I wish we had longer. This conversation needs a lot longer, half an hour, but at least we've recognized International Women's Day every single year at Street, and we are ridiculously busy at the moment, and I very last minute pulled this together. So if it's a bit frantic, apologies, but I do think hopefully we've given everyone something they can take back to their businesses. It's been an absolute pleasure. I feel like we need to do something else, Amy, and I will speak to Tracy as well, Amy and Perla.
We can do it on Fem Foundry.
Oh my God, let's do it on Fem Foundry, Amy. Let's do that, and let's create a podcast about it.
Get the boys and the guys, the men on as well. Great.
Let's do that. That would be super interesting, because it is, even like I say, the event we're doing tomorrow, we had loads of responses going, I don't think this is for me because I'm a man. Like, no, that's why it is for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't gatekeep.
Yes, let's start making those changes. We'll definitely connect again. A huge thank you to everyone who's joined today. Big extra special thank you to Amy, Perla and Tracy. Happy International Women's Day.
Thanks, guys.
Amazing. Bye. Thanks, everyone.